Okay. For today, we are going to eventually need a wall space where we can either do dolphin or just pincha mayurasana if you'd like, but let's make sure we've got 2 blocks and a blanket for today. And then once we have all of our necessary props, we're going to start lying down on our bellies. And some of you might choose to actually lay on your blanket along the length of your torso. And then we'll just lay in the chandrasana. So heads up, 7-up style, stacking forearms. And I just liked the blanket because it provided a little bit more padding for this first thing, laying on our bellies. And then Jenny, you'll do yours horizontally. And once we find ourselves on our abdomen, stacking forearms right on top of each other, forehead on the center of your arms, you can go ahead and walk your elbows forward as much as you want to. And then notice if you'd like to have your big toes touching and the heels splaying out, or if you want to have your feet wider apart and just letting the heels turn in and the toes turn out. And as we find ourselves in this first shape, I encourage you to notice if you can soften any tension around the neck, the mouth, your shoulders. See if you can allow more weight to fall into the floor. So maybe you soften the abdomen, you soften around the chest. See if you can soften any weight of the glutes, the legs, and the feet. And for these next few moments that we're here, I'd like you to consciously choose where you want to send the breath. So notice what happens if you breathe into your chest and sort of push your chest down into the floor, inflating it like it's a balloon. And then you exhale and just gently soften the breath. And we'll just take 2 or 3 more breaths like that. So big breath into the chest, almost feeling like you're pressing your sternum down into the floor, and feel how that widens the ribs and maybe presses into the back body. And then just exhale and let that go. And then this third breath here, just breathing into the chest, softening around the shoulders and the neck as you press the chest lightly into the floor. And then exhale and let that go. And then notice if you can do that same thing with your belly. So you'll press into the belly, letting it lightly press into the floor or towards the floor, and notice how that can widen the ribs and the low back. And then you'll exhale and let that go. And you'll just take 2 more like that. And today for our focus, we're focusing on allowing ourselves to really tune in to sense what's happening in our bodies. I had this momentary insight with the help of my therapist this week, where we were talking about how our body often gives us sensations. It tells us where we feel comfortable, where we feel safe, where we feel supported, where we feel expansive. And yet very often our mind allows us to talk ourselves out of that knowingness. And so in our practice today, we're going to see if we can allow the mind to just take a back seat and let the body lead the way. And so throughout our practice, the question, the invitation is, through each shape that we take, can you stay as curious, as sensitive as you might be right now as you're paying attention to how the breath is moving in and out of the body? So we'll take about 2 more breath cycles here before we move on. And then at the end of your next exhalation, you'll gently lift your head away from the hands, plant the hands alongside your ribs, and press yourselves to a child's pose position. And your knees can be as close or as far apart as you need them to be for you. And again, we're paying very close attention to what it feels like to breathe fully here. Imagining that you're still pressing the belly or the chest down into the floor, or maybe down into your thighs. And then feeling that balloon-like lift, balloon-like quality. I'll just take 1 more breath cycle here. As you're ready, you'll bring your hands underneath your shoulders. And you'll start to walk your knees, ankles, and shins together. If they're not, curl your toes under and bring yourself to sit on top of your shins for toe squat. And once you find yourself here, You might just choose to stay completely still in toe squat. You might choose to take some movement with the breath, inhaling the arms, reaching out and up, and then exhaling the arms, opening out and back down. And we'll take about 5 of these. And if you're just still, you be still. But we're just allowing ourselves to still have that deep, full breath as we breathe in, and that deep, full breath as we breathe out. And as you take these last 2 breath cycles on your own, I want to invite you to again notice your own pace. Does your body wish to go slower? Does it wish to go faster? Whatever your natural rhythm is a-okay. And there's nothing else that you need to be doing. This will be our last breath cycle here. The end of this next exhalation, go ahead and come forward, hands and knees, pitter patter the tops of your feet like you're having a happy little temper tantrum. And then you might choose to shift your weight back and lift one end or both knees away from the floor to stretch the fronts of your knees and ankles if that feels great and good to you. Awesome sauce. When you're ready, we'll go ahead and come back forward to hands and knees. I do encourage you to plant your blocks on either side of you, to the right and to the left. And they'll be more about mid-mat than they normally are. So they're closer to your knees than they are to the top of the space. Great. And then once you've got that established, let's come back to hands and knees. Curl both sets of toes under. And then you'll start to press your butt back to a downward facing dog, but keep your knees pretty bent for this first down dog. And with the knees super bent, keep lifting through the inner armpits. And I want you to shift your hips over to the right, just slightly, feeling what that does. And then you'll inhale and come through center and shift your hips slightly to the left. Yep. And you'll do about 2 more of those, 1 to each side, just following your breath, seeing what that does to the hamstrings, what that does to the calves. Nice work, guys. And then when you've completed that, you'll come to center, and then maybe you'll slowly straighten one leg and then slowly straighten another. And again, you're paying attention to what the sensation feels like in the body. You're going towards what feels good or what feels warm, in the words of Martha Beck. And you're allowing the mind to just sort of go along for the ride. Awesome. When you feel complete with that, go ahead and come to a still neutral spot. Let's inhale down to hands and knees and take a moment to pause there. You might need to pad your knees if your knees are sensitive. Otherwise, let's keep those hands shoulder distance apart. Send your right foot back, tuck the toes under. Straighten the right leg long, hug your front 2 hip bones together and lengthen your tailbone back, and then lift the right leg parallel to the floor. From there, reach back through the big toe. You might keep both hands on the floor or reach your left arm forward, palm faces in, thumb faces up, and we'll hold here for about 4 to 5 breath cycles. And again, you're just pushing down into that right hand, left knee. You're reaching back through the right big toe, forward through the left pinky finger. And you're noticing if the breath can be as smooth and as steady as it was when we were on our bellies. The end of your next exhalation, lower the left hand, then lower the right knee. Take a moment to notice your breath. And then we'll go ahead and switch sides. Extend your left leg back, curl the toes under, straighten all the muscles on the leg, and then go ahead and lift left leg parallel to the floor. You might stay here, lengthening your tailbone back, drawing those front ribs in, or you might reach your right hand forward, palm faces in, thumb faces up. And we'll stay here for about 5 breath cycles. And so as you're here, you're really lengthening your tailbone back so you can draw your front ribs in. You're reaching your crown forward and your tail back. And you're just noticing what it feels like to be in this shape, to be in the sensations and the experiences that you're having. No need to alter or change them, just observe. The end of your next exhale, lower the right hand, lower the left knee. Curl the toes under once again. Start to lift your pelvis up and back, downward facing dog. Awesome sauce. Now this is going to sound super weird, but you're going to walk your feet forward about 1 footprint. So maybe it's a foot, depending upon how long your feet are. And then you'll walk your hands back about 1 handprint. And then you'll walk your feet forward half of a footprint and your hands back towards your feet until you're standing in the middle of your mat, roughly in line with your blocks. And then from here, bend your knees quite a bit. You might bring your hands onto your blocks or not. And you might need to separate your feet in order to accommodate your current anatomy. And then from here, we're going to do the same thing. So you might shift your hips a little bit to the right. And then you'll come back to center. And then you might shift your hips a little bit to the left. And then you'll come back to center and you'll do that again. And you're just noticing what it feels like as you do this. You might notice that as you're doing this, this gives you different sensations happening in the pelvis and in the low back. Awesome. And then once you come back to center, you'll straighten one leg and then the other. And the blocks are there to help if it feels like your hammies are like, whoa, that's crazy. And again, you're just noticing the breath. What are the sensations that your body is sending you? Awesome. And you've got about 2 more sets. So if you're bending one knee and then the other, just feel how this feels. How can you let the head be a little bit heavier? Nice job. Go ahead and come to a still neutral spot. Bend your knees quite a bit. Plant your hands back on the floor if they're not there. And then you'll walk your hands forward and walk your feet back and come to a downward facing dog and feel how this feels. Great. And you'll just notice the down dog. Can you continue to lift up through the inner armpits as you continue to breathe very steadily and consistently? Awesome. Inhale, come forward into a hovering hands and knees. So your knees are just sort of hovering off the floor. Your butt is reaching back, your crown is reaching forward. Nice job. Very slowly lower the knees to the mat. Awesome. Once again, go ahead and reach that right leg back. Tuck the toes under, straighten the leg long, and then lift the leg parallel-ish to the floor. And then if you'd like, square that outer right hip to the floor and reach your left arm forward. Yep. And press back through that right big toe. And then everyone see if you can lift up through the back of your head, just a smidge as though you had a block, yep, on the back of your head. Nice job. Gently exhale and lower the left hand, lower the right knee. Take a moment to inhale into a cow shape and exhale into a cat shape, and do that 2 more times. And you're just feeling what this feels like. Sometimes we can get very regimented in what we're doing, but sometimes we need to shake things up, move things around a bit. Awesome. Once you've completed your 3rd set, you'll go ahead and come to a neutral spot, and we'll try that on the other side. So go ahead and lift your left leg back parallel to the floor. Hug the low belly in and make sure that left leg is parallel. And if you'd like, you'll reach the right arm forward. And we'll just pause here for a few breaths. Yep. And wobbling's okay. Just continue to breathe and soften your jaw. You've got 2 more breath cycles here. The end of your next exhalation, lower the right hand, lower the left knee, and again, 3 cats and cows. And you're just exploring what this feels like. How often do you allow the body to just guide the way? Or how often do we allow the head, the mind, the intellect? And mostly for me, it's a sense of obligation. I should be doing this. As you're ready, you might choose to take any organic movement or stick with cats and cows if that feels good to you. But again, you're allowing the body to lead the way. What feels nurturing to you? What allows you to really be the whole version of you that you'd like to be, or at least experience all the different experiences that you'd like to have. And you've got 3 more breath cycles. So if you've been doing something asymmetrical, please visit the other side. Awesome sauce. And at the end of your 3rd exhalation, you'll come back to stillness, back to center. And then we'll go ahead and lift our hips up and back, going back to downward facing dog once again. Awesome sauce. And just notice what this down dog feels like in this moment. How is the breath? Can you still breathe into the belly as though the belly was pressing into the floor or pressing towards your thighs? And can you notice what that does to the low back? Go ahead and exhale all your breath and step your feet 1 footprint forward. And then step your hands 1 handprint back. And then the feet will come forward probably another 1/2 footprint, and the hands will go back towards your feet. So we're now again in a forward fold, and we're seeing how this is this time. Does it feel like there's a little bit more openness in the backs of the legs? Great. From here, let's go ahead and inhale, halfway lift, Ardha Uttanasana. Press your hands into the front of your shins or your thighs. And then let's see if we can shift our weight forward just a little bit so it's evenly displaced across the feet. And then let's bend our knees to a 90-degree angle. Draw your hands to heart center and bring your heart up, head up, chair pose. And as you're here in this chair pose for today, everyone think of sliding your knees forward, your heels and your hips back, and your heart up. Nice job. Got 2 more breath cycles here. The end of your next exhalation, you'll fold forward at the hips, hands will come down to the blocks or the floor. Awesome sauce. From here, inhale, keep the knees slightly bent, swim your right leg back parallel to the floor. Right leg back parallel to the floor. Yep, and lower that outer right hip to the floor, press back through your right big toe mound and see if you can keep that outer left hip pulling straight back. Nice job. Next exhale, bend the right knee, plant the right foot next to the left foot. Take a moment to just hang forward in forward fold and see how that feels. And then we'll try all that on the other side. Inhale, bend the knees, lift the heart, sweep your left leg back. Yep. And we're lifting that left leg parallel-ish to the floor. We're reaching our spine parallel-ish to the floor, and we're seeing what that feels like. Nice job. Next exhale, see if you can draw the belly in a little bit more. Inhale, lift the inner left thigh a smidge higher. Yep. And then exhale, bend the knee and step the left foot down to meet the right. Go ahead and bend both knees, plant both hands on your mat and walk your hands forward, walk your feet back, downward facing dog. Nice job. Great. Inhale, come forward into plank pose, fallen kasana. And we're going to pause here, press down through the hands, lift up through the inner thighs and reach your heart and sternum forward. On your next exhale, you'll shift your weight forward and slowly lower through Chaturanga Dandasana. When you get down, you'll inhale and bring yourself into a baby cobra, reaching your heart and your sternum forward. And then when you exhale, you'll lower all the way back down to your belly. Inhale, come up, hands and knees. And exhale, downward facing dog. Yeah, nice modification, Jenny. Awesome. And you'll just take a moment to pause and you'll take a moment to breathe and you'll see how that's going. Nice work. Okay, adding on. Inhale, sweep your right leg up and back. Keep the hips square, press back through that right foot, reach down through the left, yep. And as you exhale, draw the right knee to the nose. Carefully lower that foot to the floor and see if you can take a really long stance. Yep, and then slowly lower that back knee to the floor, patting it if you need to. Great. From here, you'll start to bring your spine up to vertical. So press down into the front foot, push down into the back knee, draw those 2 points together. And then you'll lift up through the spine as much as you can. Awesome. And so as we're reaching up through both arms, I want you to draw your left ribs back. And on your next exhale, we'll take, Jenny, you might take an open twist, but we'll take a twist towards the right. So Jenny, if it doesn't feel good, you go to the left instead. Awesome. If you're going to the right, you'll bring your left hand to the outside edge of your right knee. Inhale, lift up through the spine. And as you exhale, lightly pull the right low belly back. And maybe you peer back and look at your right hand. Awesome sauce. Next in breath, let's go ahead and unwind, reach both arms high. And then exhale, plant the palms, square or frame the front foot, lift your back knee up and press back to downward facing dog. Great. Inhale, come forward, plank pose. Exhale, lower through chaturanga, and inhale through cobra or up dog, whatever feels best to you. Nice work. And when you're ready, you'll just make your way back to down dog. And when you get back to down dog, take a few breaths to just check in. I think what becomes really challenging about really noticing and listening to our internal guidance is that we're often rushing. We're often doing so many things. There's so many obligations on many of our to-do lists that it's kind of hard to always keep track of what's going on with us on a most visceral, basic level. And so that's what we're doing now. This is our time to connect with us. On your next in-breath, go ahead and lift your left leg up and back. Yep. Reach back through that left big toe. Draw the outer right hip back. Yep. And as you exhale, draw the left knee forward. Slowly plant that foot on the mat. Yep. Taking a long stance between the legs, and then you'll slowly lower the right knee down to the mat. And inhale, bring your spine all the way up to vertical. And once you come to vertical, we're pressing into that left foot, we're pushing into that right knee, we're sucking those points together, we're reaching up through both arms, and we're drawing our front ribs back. Now you can choose to stay here and breathe, or we can take a twist, either going to the right or to the left, whichever direction you didn't go. If you've twisted towards the left, bring your right hand outside of your left knee, and push the left knee out into the left hand as you pull the left hand in, the right hand, and pull the right hand into the left knee. Draw the left low belly in and up and rotate that way. Yep, you've got one more breath cycle here. Next inhale, come up, both hands high. As you exhale, frame the front foot, straighten the back leg long, step back, downward facing dog. Your option to cycle through an up dog or cobra or stay right where you are, but you're just following what feels good to the body, but allows the body to have a little bit more expressiveness, a little bit more aliveness, vivacity. Awesome. Sauce. Good job, guys. And then from down dog, we're going to again take our feet 1 foot print forward. And if you've got that blanket, you might just step your balls of your feet onto the blanket and let your heels stay on the mat, and then just walk your hands back to your feet. And so we're going to find ourselves in a forward fold in the middle of our mat. And if you're standing on that blanket, this just really, with the balls of the feet on the blanket and the heels on the floor, it really just gives you more stretch in the calves. And again, you'll just bend the knees as we did before, shifting the hips right to left, feeling how this feels in the backs of the legs. Awesome sauce. And you got 2 more breath cycles here, just noticing how this is going. And then let's go ahead and come to a still neutral spot. If you're still on that blanket, it will make it harder, but you can do this. Otherwise, you might step your feet onto the floor. I would highly encourage you to put your hands on blocks. And then from here, we're going to go ahead and inhale, halfway lift, Ardha Uttanasana. As you exhale, bend your knees, drawing your spine parallel to the floor. Draw your hands to your heart center, sit your butt back, let your knees come forward and your heart come up. And so let's all press down into our big toe mounds, hug those outer hips in, lift the sternum up, and then you might extend the arms alongside the ears. Awesome sauce. On your next exhale, start to fold forward once again, hands come back down to floor or blocks. Again, you can do this on the blanket, but it will make it harder. So you just modulate that for you. Bend your knees, sweep your right leg back parallel-ish to the floor. Awesome. So with your hands underneath your shoulders, make sure you walk that right hand in just a little bit. So it's closer to the left hand. Draw your left hand to your left hip. Lift your right inner thigh up. Push down into your right hand, and maybe you'll start to rotate your left shoulder on top of your right. Maybe you'll reach your left arm up, maybe you won't, but we're just seeing what this revolved position feels like coming from the ground up. Nice job, guys. As you're ready, draw that left hand back down to the floor, square your shoulders to the floor, step your right leg to meet your left. And then just take a moment to pause here and notice what it feels like between the right and the left side. Can your heads be heavier? Yep. Awesome sauce. And then we'll go ahead and try that on the other side. So inhale, lift your spine parallel-ish to the floor, bend your knees and sweep your left leg long and back. So the left leg stays super strong and straight. You might need to walk the left hand towards the right hand just a little bit. And then draw your right hand to your right hip. Keeping that left leg super active, pull your right outer hip to your inner left thigh. Reach your crown forward and lift the back of your head a smidge. Nice job, guys. Then you might start to stack your right shoulder on top of the left. Maybe rotating your chest slightly to the right, maybe lifting the right arm up. Nice work. Notice the sensations and see if you can breathe. On your next exhale, lower the right hand. Step the left foot forward. Take a moment to notice what it feels like in forward fold. And then we'll go ahead and remove our blocks, bend your knees, step your feet back, step your hands forward back to downward facing dog. Awesome sauce. All right, inhale, come forward into plank pose. Pause, listen closely. Push down through both hands, lift up through the back of your head, lift up through the back of your ribs. Float your right leg off the floor, parallel-ish, drawing the low belly in. Nice job. Next exhale, lower that right leg down. And then inhale, float the left leg up. Awesome sauce. Exhale, lower it down. And one more time each side. And so you're just seeing as you do this, if you can keep the core engaged, so we can move the legs independent of the hips. Yep. And after you've done both sides, both sets, you can either go back to downward facing dog or rest in child's pose, your choice, but you've got 3 breath cycles. And you're just noticing, what are the sensations that you're experiencing? Now, it's one of those fun things. I must admit, I do like sweating. I don't sweat often, but I do enjoy sweating. It's a fun thing to experience. I also enjoy having my muscles work, but there's a difference between having the muscles work and feeling like you're in pain. And so we're seeing if we can pay attention to that. Awesome sauce. All right, if you're in child's pose, please make your way back to downward facing dog. Great, and from downward facing dog, we'll go ahead and inhale, sweep our right leg up and back. As you exhale, step that right foot quietly between your hands. Spin your back foot to the floor for warrior 1. And then inhale, bring your spine all the way up to vertical for warrior 1. Awesome. And once we find ourselves in warrior 1, let's go ahead and bend into that front knee. Draw your right hand to your right hip just for a moment, right hand to right hip. Draw your outer right hip back. Press into your left pinky toe, so that's the straight leg, and reach up through your left hand. Awesome sauce. You can choose to stay right here, or you can bring your right hand to touch the back inside edge of your left thigh for exalted warrior. And again, you're reaching up through that left arm. You're trying to keep your shoulders square to the front of the mat as you bend into the front knee, and you might find a fun stretch happening across your left low ribs into the left hip. You're just pausing and you're breathing. Awesome sauce. Next, in breath, sweep your right arm up and overhead, both arms high, Virabhadrasana 1. And as you exhale, shift your weight forward and plant your palms to square the front foot. Great. Now, highly encourage you to have hands on blocks, but that's totally up to you. From here, we're going to do a modified revolved extended side angle. So Jenny, you might choose not to do this. You'll keep your left hand on the block or floor and just simply open your right arm out to the right and up and back. And again, we're trying to draw that outer right hip back. Yep. And that's a great modification, Jenny. And you're just taking 3 moments or 3 breaths to pause here. We haven't done a revolved extended side angle in a long time. So just feel how this feels in your body. So the back foot is in that warrior one position. Well, both feet are in that warrior one position, but you're revolving the heart, you're revolving the chest. Nice job. Next exhale, lower your right hand to the floor. Plant your palms on the mat and step yourself back to downward facing dog. Now, since we've added in that 3-legged plank thing, you could come forward to a 3-legged plank and cycle through an up dog or cobra if you'd like, or you can just take a regular cycle through up dog or cobra. It's totally up to you, but you're just paying attention to how this feels in your body. You're paying attention to the stories that you're telling yourself about how this feels in your body and about how it feels to be in your body. Nice work. And then once you make it back to downward facing dog, you'll just take 3 breaths and you'll notice what you notice. So this week I've been reading 2 books that are kind of coming out of the Brene Brown, I don't know what you want to call it. One of them she actually wrote, the other one she's an editor for it. But they're all about feelings, they're all about emotions. I really encourage or suggest the other one is called Atlas of the Heart. And then the one where she edited it, it's called You Are Your Best Thing. And both of these are just, I'm finding myself crying and seeing so much resonance in so many different aspects of it because she's talking about feelings and how to navigate the human experience. All right, we're going to try all this on the other side. So go ahead and inhale, lift your left leg up and back. And as you exhale, step your left foot quietly between your hands. Spin your back foot to the floor for warrior one. And then when you feel steady in your feet, inhale, come up for Virabhadrasana 1. And again, just as we did before, so we'll have both arms up, we'll bend into that front knee. And the first option is to just simply bring your left hand to your left hip and draw your outer left hip back, reach up like we're reaching for the stars. And you might choose to stay here, happy as a clam. You might take that left hand behind you to touch the inside edge of your right thigh and take exalted warrior. But wherever you are, we're thinking of reaching up through the right arm, drawing those front right ribs in and back and bending into that left knee. And we're just noticing what we notice, how the breath is moving, how we're feeling in this moment. Awesome sauce. On your next inhale, release the left arm up and overhead, Virabhadrasana 1. And as you exhale, come forward, planting hands on blocks or floor, framing that front foot. Keep drawing your outer left hip back, and then you'll inhale and rotate towards the left. And you've just got a few breath cycles here. How does it feel to keep that back pinky toe pressed down? Keep your spine as long as it can be, whether you're rotating or not. Yep. And drawing that outer left hip straight back. I guess what I'm finding interesting about these books is how she's given language to so many aspects of the human experience and how she's found the nuances in them. Take your next exhale and lower the left hand down. Step yourself back to downward facing dog. Your choice to cycle through with a 3-legged upward facing or 3-legged plank or not. That's totally up to you. Awesome sauce. And then once you get back to downward facing dog, you can either hang out there or you can go to child's pose, but we'll all meet in child's pose at one point. So you'll take a few moments to rest there. And you'll just breathe and you'll see how you feel. What I've been finding interesting about all of this is a lot of times our head talks us into thinking that we feel a particular way, but if we can just slow down a bit, we can tune in and really notice and observe what is true for us. And as she says in various parts of the books, once we can own what's true for us, it allows us to really connect with and be present to what's true for another without attempting to fix or, erase or minimize what another person might be going through. So you've got about 2 more breath cycles here. And then at the end of your second exhalation, you'll start to bring your hands underneath your shoulders and bring your spine up to vertical. Okay, and you'll sit for a moment just before we go to the wall. I want us to make sure that we've stretched our lats appropriately before we try to do dolphin. So we'll lift up through our left arm, bend our left elbow, grab our left elbow with our right hand. And you'll just simply press your left elbow to the left, draw it in towards the right. And we're making sure our ribs aren't flaring forward, but you're instead hugging them in and back. And your head is pushing straight back. And after you've taken about 3 or 4 breath cycles on this side, you'll inhale and lift up through your right arm and then up through your left, and we'll switch sides, bending the right elbow, holding it in towards the midline as you press the right elbow out towards the right, drawing the front ribs in and back and your head straight back. So sometimes our head can cave forward and we'll see if it can sit right on top of our spine. Awesome sauce. Next in breath, go ahead and reach up through the left arm and up through the right, and we'll let the arms come out. Cool. So before we go to pincha, I will encourage you to take some shoulder circles, neck rolls, anything that feels like you gotta move out some stuff. And then we're gonna make our way to a wall. So when we're going to the wall, you might only just need your mat. We're not gonna be there for too long. So we're just gonna do a dolphin and possibly a pincha. Uh-oh, we lost Julie. There's Julie. And Laura, is that enough room for you to kick up and not feel like you're going to kick either that door or the wall? Yeah? Okay. Awesome. And then once you are ready, you're going to come down to hands and knees facing your wall. And just as we normally do, you can either do the prayer position or you can interlace your hands. You can also do number 11 if that works for you, but I find that the prayer position seems a lot more accessible to me. And so your pinky fingers, or rather the tips of your fingers, if you're doing that prayer position, might touch the wall. And then let's go ahead and round our position into that cat shape. So rounding our spine, make sure your elbows are over, or rather under your shoulders, and then curl your toes under and lift your hips high. And as we come up, I want you to keep thinking that you've got that cat shape. So push down into your forearms a lot. Yep. And then you might walk your feet in and you might just hang out there. If you feel pretty stable in your shoulder joint, you might kick one leg up and then the other leg up to practice pincha. Laura, pause, come down. Okay, make sure your elbows are a little bit inside of your shoulders and then push down and wide with your skin. Round in through your spine and then come up. Yeah, that looks better already from your shoulders. Nice, Jenny. Hug in through the midline, Jenny. Yep. And then when you're ready, take child's pose. There you go, Laura. Nice. Laura, push down and lift up through your armpits even more. There you go. Nice, Steve. Go ahead and try it, Julie. Or you're done. You're good. You're good. And then after you've tried it, you're just going to rest in child's pose. And I want you to notice all the sensations that are happening. Good, Julie. Push down through your outer elbows and lift up through your armpits. Yep, a little more. Push down. There you go, Julie. And then you just notice, and you notice what you notice. How is the experience? How is the blood? How is the body? How is the breath? For me, I've noticed that there are a lot of things that evoke a sense of fear and anxiety, but they're not really fear and anxiety. It's just how I've labeled them. And that's one of the things I'm finding interesting about Atlas of the Heart is she's really allowing, she's really exploring the process of how what we call things really matters, how it impacts our experience of them, how it impacts our experience of ourselves, as well as our experience of others. So you've got 2 more breaths here. And as you're here, I encourage you to just notice what it feels like. If you've got a name for it, great. If you don't, great. Just notice what it feels like. And then as you're ready, we'll start to sit up. So you'll bring your hands underneath your shoulders. You'll bring your butt to the floor. Cool. And then swing your legs around in front of you to sit for Dandasana, staff pose. And we haven't done this in a while, so if this doesn't feel good, I'm sorry. And it's completely okay if it doesn't feel good. I do encourage most of you to sit up on your blanket. You might just have it folded in quarters, or you might fold it over again in 8, so it's a little bit thicker, but you're going to put your butt on your blanket. Okay, and then we're going to bend our left knee, and then just cross your left knee on top of your right, so your knees perhaps stack right on top of each other. And if that works for you, you will hang out right here, or you might swim your right leg so it's outside of your left hip. So for Gomukhasana legs. And then you might want to lift your butt up if you've done all that and move your butt a little bit over to the right. Cool. So now if we're sort of established there, you might just stay here, hold on to your feet, sit tall and close your eyes and breathe. You might choose to bring your left hand to the floor to the outside edge of your left hip and just reach up with your right arm and take a gentle side bend. And we're paying attention to what it feels like happening on our outer right hip as our right arm is reaching up and we're leaning slightly to the left. And you're noticing what you feel on the top of the hip, the outer hip, if you can soften any unnecessary tension in your neck and your shoulders and your face. And then on your next in-breath, you'll go ahead and come up to center if you'd like. You'll take that to the other side. So now your right hand comes down to the floor, your left arm sweeps up, and we'll take a gentle side bend over towards the right. And again, you're paying attention. This side is its own unique animal. The configuration of the legs gives it a fun little sensation. So paying attention to what's happening maybe in the front of the left ribs, down through or up through the left pinky finger, down through the back on the left side, softening the right shoulder, finding that nice stretch of fascia along this line. And then when you're ready, you'll inhale and you'll come up. Some of you will stay right here in center. Some of you will choose to hinge forward at your hips. Again, you're just doing what feels good to you. You're paying attention to the sensations that are happening in your body. And you've just got 3 or 4 more breath cycles here. In what ways can you allow yourself to take in a deeper breath? Sometimes some sensations of stretch allow a deeper breath to come in, and sometimes they prevent it. So what is happening right now for you? What will allow you to take in a deeper breath? At the end of your next exhalation, you'll start to walk back up to vertical if you hinged forward. You'll uncross your legs in whichever way feels best to you and extend both legs in front of you. You might windshield wiper the legs in and out. Awesome. And then when you feel ready, we'll try the other side. So you'll bend your right knee. You'll stack your right knee on top of your left knee, and you might choose to stay here happy as a clam. You might bend your left knee and swim that foot so it's outside of your right hip. And we want to try to make sure that our knees are directly on top of each other. And then to help with that, it helps to lift your butt up and slide it a little bit to the right. Cool. And then from here, we'll bring the right hand out to the right, and you'll inhale and sweep your left arm up, and a gentle little side bend over towards the right. And you'll notice what you feel on this side. So we've already done this, but we had a different leg on top. So how is this side its own unique thing? What are you feeling in the body? How can you deepen the breath to allow more expansiveness to enter into your left side body? How can you soften any tension around your right shoulder, the right side of your neck? Nice job. Next inhale, let's go ahead and come up to center. And then we'll try that on the other side. So left hand out to the left, right arm reaches up. And then exhale, little side bend over towards the left. And then notice what's happening on that left arm. Can you bend the left elbow so it doesn't feel like you're locking out the arm? So that there's a little bit more softness that comes into the underside, the left side, as you're finding length on the right side. And then as you're ready, you'll inhale and come up. And again, just as we did before, you might just stay here, sitting tall, hands on feet. You might decide to hinge forward. There are different sensations that are happening. So you just pay attention to what feels the most, I don't want to say nurturing, but feels like it's the most in alignment with what your body wishes to do. And you just pause and you breathe. Notice if there's any tension around your neck, your jaw, your shoulders, your mouth. And you've got 2 more breath cycles here. At the end of your next exhale, you'll gently bring your spine up to vertical. You'll unwind your legs. You might choose to take Baddha Konasana for this one, so soles of the feet together and knees open out. You might choose to windshield wiper the legs. You might choose to do none of the above. It's totally up to you. Great. And if you are in Baddha Konasana, does it feel good to hinge forward at the hips? Does it feel good to sit up straight? You're just paying attention to what feels appropriate for you. Nice work, guys. We've got 3 more breath cycles here, and whatever you are doing is completely fine. That's the thing I've been trying to teach myself or learn for myself, is that, there's no right or wrong necessarily. Like, as long as we're not going out and hurting people, yeah, but in terms of how we show up, like as long as we show up fully and we're doing our best, that's all that matters. We're breathing, we're responding to what's happening in our bodies. That's all that is needed. Okay, at the end of your next exhale, you'll gently come out of whatever shape you happen to be in, and we're going to make our way onto our backs. I do encourage you to have your blocks and your blankets somewhere easily accessible to you. And the first thing you might choose to wish to do is just lie flat. Your knees might be bent or the legs might be straight. It's totally up to you. You're just going to lie flat for a moment. Then we'll go ahead and bend both knees if the knees are straight. Open your arms out to the sides till it feels like your shoulders feel like the shoulder blades rest onto the floor. The back of the head, the back of the pelvis rest into the floor. And then you're going to do the very gentle bridge. And you'll just take 4 of these. You'll inhale, push through the feet, lift the hips up. And you'll exhale and lower down. And since many of us have taken our arms potentially wider than we normally would take them, you just notice what that feels like, what's happening in the shoulders as you lift the hips up and down, what's happening in the feet and the pelvis as you come up and down. And then after you've taken 4, you're going to come up and hold bridge for about 5 breath cycles. So if you want to move the arms to a different position, by all means do that. If you want to keep them as they are, by all means do that. But you're allowing yourself to just tune in. I can't speak for any of you, but I do know that for me, I struggle a lot to really give myself permission to just follow what feels good, to let that be the guide. And it's interesting because my therapist pointed out, she's like, well, what if that's your body telling you what you really need to be doing, what feels like it's in alignment with what you're hoping and wanting and really destined to be doing. And so as you're here for these last few breath cycles, I want you to just feel into what feels good and see if you can lean into that just a little bit more. And when you're ready, you'll release your hands, you'll untuck the shoulders if you've tucked them, and you'll bring your pelvis back down. From here, you might open the arms out once again, and then we'll just take some windshield wipers very slowly, letting the knees go one way, and then letting them go the other. And I do encourage you to move very slowly. There's no rush, there's no hurry. Whoever you are, however you are at this moment is absolutely wonderful. Awesome. And once you feel like you've done that an equal number of times to both sides, you'll go ahead and come to a still neutral spot. From here, hug your knees in towards your chest, and then you might choose to either rock and roll a little bit from right to left. You might choose to be still. You're good, Julie. Some of you will then come to stillness and either open the legs straight out to the right and to the left like a straddle, or take a half happy baby, or do whatever allows you to feel an opening across the inner thighs. And you're just noticing. Where do you feel energy moving through your body? Where do you feel things opening up, releasing? Where do you feel things finding a sense of expansionness and ease? Awesome. Gently, you'll draw your knees back to center. And the last little thing that we'll do before I'll let you do whatever feels better to you is you're going to plant your feet on the floor. And then grab one of your blocks and slide your block or blocks underneath your sacrum. And you can set that block on whatever setting or height feels best to you. And then some of you will stay here just in the supported bridge. Some of you might choose to lift one leg up to the sky and then the other leg up to the sky. Some of you might choose to extend one leg down on the floor and then the other leg down on the floor. But we're going to be here for a few moments. So you might try being in one shape, one position for a while and seeing how that feels. And then you might choose to do something else. I think one of the things I'm observing for myself is that I think my head gets in the way so quickly because I don't think that I can change, that I can, make a decision and then decide to do something else. But I mean, that's really kind of funny because the only constant in life is change, So as you're feeling into your body, as you're watching things naturally evolve, just notice if you'd like to stay in that position that you're in or if you'd like to explore a different one. And if you do, you might do that or you might stay where you are, and that's completely fine too. We've got about another minute or so. And as we're here for this last minute, I do encourage you to notice the breath now. Notice the sensations in your body now. Great, and you'll take 3 more breath cycles here before we'll start to make our way back to that supported bridge and before we start to come out of the shape. So at the end of your third exhalation, we'll gently bring both feet back to the floor if they're anywhere but on the floor. And then I want you to lightly push down into the feet, engage your glutes, lift your hips away from your block, remove the block, and then bring your pelvis back down to the floor. When the bum hits the floor, notice if you can widen the arms away from your hips and let the palms face up. Notice the weight of the head. Notice the weight of the shoulders. Notice the weight of the hips. And just take a moment to check in here and see how you feel. See if there's any final shape or shapes your body is calling for. And then by all means, go ahead and explore that. And we've got about a minute and a half here. So we'll just take the time to feel into, sense into what your body feels like would be really good for you. And not good in that heady type of way, but just, feel interesting, feel expansive, feel easeful, feel vibrant and alive. And if you've done something asymmetrical, I do encourage you to visit the other side. And again, just notice what you notice. Where can you soften a little bit more? Where can you let go just a little bit more? Okay, as you feel ready, we're going to make our way to our final resting pose. For today, I would encourage you to put something actually on your abdomen. So whether you decide to put a block on your abdomen, whether you decide to put a blanket on your abdomen, if you have something that's kind of weighted like a meditation cushion or a bean bag or something like that, it feels really nice to put that on the diaphragm, which is just below your lowest front floating ribs. And so if there's something like expansive, see if you can really just sort of put something there. It sounds really strange, but having a little bit of weight on the top of the abdomen like that just allows you to train the diaphragm to release. And so if because of, gestation, you cannot do that, the blanket will suffice. It'll still give you that feedback. Cool. And so as we come into this final shape, I want you to first start by noticing the weight of the body. How is the head into the floor? How are the shoulder blades making contact with the floor? How are the hips? What do you notice across the sacrum? Notice the legs if the legs are long, or the knees if the knees are bent. Notice your ankles and your feet. And now, since most of us have something on our abdomen, I want you to just breathe into whatever is on your abdomen and then really allow yourself to receive the weight of that thing as you exhale. So as you inhale, you press that thing away from you. And as you exhale, you allow it to soften into you. And through the remainder of the practice, the impetus or the focus of your awareness is just watching the breath, watching that abdomen expand and contract. And that prop on the abdomen is just giving you a little bit of feedback. And you'll continue to breathe and be here on your own for a few moments. And I'll let you know when it's time to come out. Gently return your awareness to your breath and see if you can just let go of the awareness of breathing into the prop. As best as you can, just take the prop and remove it from your abdomen and just take 3 or 4 breath cycles there. And just notice what you notice without that extra weight. How does it feel to breathe? In many ways, when we can remove some of the unnecessary restrictions that we place on ourselves, it does allow us to breathe a lot more easily, both literally and metaphorically. If you need a few more moments here, by all means, just hang out here. Otherwise, you'll start to make your way into some gentle movement and then bring yourself to one of your sides. From there, you'll start to make your way to a tall and comfortable seat. And I do encourage you to take the opportunity to elevate your bum on a block or a blanket. And as we've been doing recently, we're going to end with a few rounds of Nadi Shodhana. So you can plant your left hand wherever you'd like, either palm facing up or palm facing down. You might tuck the index finger into the base of the thumb. And then you'll use your right hand to bring the right thumb to close the right nostril, ring finger, pinky finger to close the left nostril. Gently sit up tall. Exhale all the breath from your mouth. And then when you're ready, you'll close your right nostril and inhale just through your left. Top of your inhalation, you'll close your left nostril and then gently exhale out through your right. When you need to, you'll draw the breath back in through your right nostril. Top of your inhalation, you'll close your right nostril and slowly exhale out through the left. And you'll just take a few more rounds like that on your own, allowing yourself to just tune in to the natural pace of your breath at this moment, following its lead. With every subsequent breath that you take, you notice how much more effort you can release. So while it does take energy to sit tall, when the spine is aligned, it actually takes less energy and you can let go of more effort. The breath comes in easier, the spine sits up taller. There's no rush, but the next time the breath naturally wants to leave your left nostril, you'll simply lower your right hand. And you'll just take 3 or 4 breath cycles there. Noticing the breath as it enters the body, and noticing the breath as it exits the body. As you breathe here, just feel what you feel. Notice all this wonderful information that is actually physiologically being sent from the body up to the brain. And the more that we allow ourselves to just soften a bit and rest into that, we can make use of that information. At the end of your next exhale, gently guide your hands to heart center, Anjali Mudra. Press the palms into each other. Receive the weight of the thumbs into your sternum and then lift your heart towards your hands. Soften the chin towards the throat and then exhale all the breath from your mouth. Take a big breath in. Audible breath out. Inhale for Om. Join if you'd like. Om. To that light, to that breath, and to that sound, we bow. Namaste.